Hey guys, what's up? It's Sydney and welcome back to my channel and to my new series, Missing Persons 1910. And we're going to be going by decades. So we're going to start in the 1910s and work our way up. But before we get into the episode, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Sydney's Poisonous on Instagram. And the jewelry shop is at Perfect Poison Shop. I sell crystals and stuff like this if you like things like that. And the YouTube is at Sydney's Poisonous YouTube, so you can keep up with things that I'm going to be putting out on there. I do post beforehand to give you guys a hint on what I'm going to be talking about, so go ahead and give that a follow as well. So this week we are going to be talking about the tragic disappearance of Dorothy Arnold. Dorothy Camille Arnold was born July 1st, 1885 in Manhattan, New York, to parents Francis and Mary. She was one of 4 children, but nonetheless she didn't have to suffer in any way as far as finances go. Her parents were actually very well off. They were the descendants of the Mayflower, and they were perfume importers. And they had, I'm sure, other businesses as well, but they were very successful, very wealthy people, very, very well known. So not only were her parents very well off and very wealthy and the descendants of the Mayflower, but her uncle was actually a Supreme Court justice as well, and his name was Rufus Peckham. Because Dorothy basically grew up with a silver spoon, she did have a very nice upbringing and a very nice education. So she did attend the Vetland School for Girls and graduated in 1905. Then went to Bryn Mawr, where she actually majored in language and literature. And she loved, more like adored, writing. She loved writing short stories and wanted to make that her career choice. She finally worked up the courage to send in one of her short stories to be published. And unfortunately, her story was rejected, but she did not let this keep her down. She continued to write until she felt that she had one that was good enough to send in again to be published. But unfortunately, that one did get rejected as well. And even with all of these rejection letters coming back to her, she still attempted to keep her head up. It did hinder her confidence a bit, but she did keep her head up and she continued to write. So not only was she feeling rejected by these newspapers and companies that she was sending her short stories into, but her father Francis actually was not very supportive of her career choice as well, and he was not shy about it. Not only was he not shy about his disapproval of her career choice, but he was also not shy about his disapproval of her engagement to the love of her life, George Griscom. So all around, just doesn't seem like the best dad, in my opinion. As far as like being financially stable and there for your children and all that, yes, but as far as being supportive and all of that, doesn't seem like he would have been that type of way, considering he was so hard on her about her career choice and her love choice and basically anything it seems like she had done in her life. But regardless of the rejection from the companies and from her own father, her friends and acquaintances still said that she was a very charming, friendly, lovely young woman, and she was very well educated, very well known, very beautiful. She was basically like a socialite of this time period. So this would be like if Paris Hilton got kidnapped or something and it made the news. Like, that's how big this was at the time. So now that you know a little bit about Dorothy, let's go into the events leading up to her disappearance. December 10th, 1910. Dorothy withdrew money from the bank and bought a gown for her sister's debutante ball because she was going to be coming out and she was preparing for that. So she wanted to get a new gown and make sure that she was ready for her sister's coming out party. After shopping, she went to the Waldorf Astoria and had some tea and then went home. December 11th, it was reported that Dorothy was actually home all day and evening, so she was safe. December 12th, 1910, the day of Dorothy's disappearance. The day of Dorothy's disappearance, she got up, got ready, and left the house at 11 a.m. But before she left, she had a conversation with her mother and her mother asked her where she was going, and she said she was going to go shopping to buy a gown, which her mother thought was odd because she had already bought a gown not the previous day but the day before. And her mother actually asked her if she wanted her to go with her, and she said no. But this actually wasn't that unusual considering her mother Mary was actually very sick. When Dorothy left, she was holding a big muff, and it looked like there was clothes stuffed into the muff. So at the time, she had about $25 on her. In 1910, that was actually quite a bit of money, and with the inflation to today, that would be about $645. So it was quite a bit of money that she had on her at the time, and it was odd that she had a muff with a bunch of clothes in it. So the following events go. She actually went to a local candy store and bought chocolates on the family credit. And the reason why we know this is because it was on the family credit. She then went to the Brentano's bookstore, I hope I'm saying that right, on 5th Avenue and 27th Street. She bought a book called Engaged Girl Sketches by Emily Calvin Blake. She again bought this on the family credit, which is why we know what she bought and when she was there. So after shopping, she actually ran into a friend. Her name is Gladys King. And Gladys reported that she saw Dorothy, and she saw that she had everything with her that she had bought and the muff. And she asked her where she was going and what she was about to do, and she said that she wanted to take a stroll through Central Park, and that's where she was going. And that is actually the last sighting of Dorothy Arnold, and this is said to be the time that she disappeared. At the time, I do feel like it's noteworthy to mention that no person that ran into her that day said that she was acting differently or acting suspicious in any way. She didn't seem like she was upset about anything, and she didn't seem like anything was bothering her. So it was just like a very normal day, very normal behavior. There was no signs of depression or anything like that. It's just kind of odd that she just simply vanished. So this is kind of where the panic sets in. So when Dorothy did not return home for dinner, her parents began to worry, and they actually started to call all of her friends and ask if she was with any of them or when the last time they had seen her was. They eventually spoke to Gladys, and that's when she told them about her last encounter with Dorothy. So later in the evening, there was still no word of Dorothy and what had happened to her or anything like that. So her friends were calling just to check in and see if there was any news, and there was no news. And then eventually her mother picked up the phone, and I believe it was Gladys that had called and asked if she was there and if she was okay. But her mother actually lied and said that she was fine, that she was there, that she was actually just in bed with a headache. Knowing full well that her daughter is missing, she simply lies to her daughter's friend. And to me, it's like, but why would you do that? Also, both her mother and her father didn't even contact the police when she basically came up missing. What they did was contact their son's friend, Keith, who was a lawyer. A lawyer. Why would you do that if your kid's missing? So Keith inspected her room, which, by the way, you're basically contaminating evidence at that point, because there could be evidence as to where she could have gone if the police were called instead of the fucking lawyer. But so he inspected the room and found no clues as to where she was. All that he did find was a couple pieces of paper that were badly burned to the point where it was illegible and you couldn't read any of it. So basically there was no leads to go off of. And then, as you might remember, I did mention that she brought a muff with her with a bunch of clothes and cash. But it might seem like she had run away, but it was the weirdest thing is that her parents didn't report any of her clothes missing or anything like that. She did previously go shopping the day before, so maybe they didn't know that she had bought these certain clothes that she had got. But still, it's just very odd. It's like, why would you not report your daughter's clothes missing if she did run away? And yes, her family was very wealthy, but she was also very sheltered. This girl was only 25 years old. I don't think that she would have gone somewhere that she didn't know anyone or whatever if she couldn't use her family credit there. She only had the $25, but $645 at the time, whatever, that's a lot of money. But at the same time, it's like, why would she just go and run off like that? And why would she only bring a muff with that much clothes? Like, that doesn't make sense either. So Keith, the family lawyer, started checking for her in morgues, hospitals, but came up with no such luck. So eventually, 6 fucking weeks later, the family finally reports it to the police. I don't understand, as a parent, I don't understand how your daughter could go missing and you not report it for 6 weeks. Like, the first 72 hours of a disappearance is the most crucial time frame to try to get these people home safely. And you're gonna wait 6 fucking weeks to report your daughter missing? That to me is just like the biggest red flag. Not only was it a red flag when her mother lied and said that she was she was in bed sick with a headache, like, but you wait 6 weeks. What the fuck? So the police wanted to contact the press to try to get coverage out for her disappearance to try to bring her home safely. And her father actually denied this at first because he said that he didn't want the press to be contacted because his daughter's behavior was embarrassing and it was a disgrace to their family name. Only after 3 days of the police prying and asking for them to be able to contact the press, they allowed it, and he basically started turning the tables. He started putting out ads for her. This is her father. He started putting out ads for her in the paper saying that she was missing, and he basically did like a 180. Huge red flag. But this unfortunately did not help, even though her father did put ads in the paper looking for her. Her fiance did put ads in the paper looking for her as well. He spent a lot of money trying to find her as well, pleading for her safe return, pleading for her to come home, because he loved her and he wanted her to come home, and unfortunately she never came home. So now we're going to go into possible theories, and that last statement actually kind of pushes me into this. So the first theory is that her fiance did it, but this was actually ruled out because he was in Italy at the time of her disappearance. And yeah, he could have like hired somebody to kill her and whatnot, but he did seem genuinely really heartbroken and upset that she had been missing and she basically was gone. And he spent a lot of money trying to find her and had no such luck. So eventually he did just have to move on with his life, but the police did rule him out. Not only did the police rule him out, but her father didn't want them to be together, and they like basically fought to be together. So I don't see him killing her after all of that, like fighting to be together and just trying to make it work, even though like her father doesn't agree and it's going to be potential issues. They were still trying to make it work. So I don't think that it was him. So there's always going to be the theories of like she ran away or she killed herself. But again, the events of the day didn't make it seem like she had been upset or affected in any way. She did come from a very affluential family, so she could have been very practiced at hiding her emotions, which a lot of the times like well-off families are very good at pretending like they don't feel a certain way because they can't show it because they don't want it to be news. But there was no trace of her ever again. So it's like, did she start a new life? Did she change her name? I don't know. I mean, that is a possibility, but I don't see her leaving her fiance when she tried to work so hard to be with him. And she was very well off and she had money and like a place to live. I don't think that she would just give that up, even though she did have money when she left, but I don't think it was enough to sustain her for her lifetime. And like I said before, she didn't seem depressed. She didn't seem upset about anything. I mean, she was a little down because she got rejection letters and, you know, her father was kind of a dick. But other than that, like, she seemed pretty normal, and she had been dealing with those things for a while, so I think she was rather used to it. And I don't think that she would have killed herself. And the last theory is that her parents did it, or more specifically, her father did it. And this is the one that I tend to believe the most because, for one, they didn't contact the police until 6 weeks after her disappearance. 2, her mother lied and said that she was in bed with a headache the night of her disappearance. 3, they contacted a lawyer instead of the police, and this was, again, 6 weeks prior before contacting the police. 4, her father did not approve of her career. And 5, her father did not approve of her fiance and did not want them to be together. So it's just, to me, all of those stack up. And the fact that her father was very, very wealthy, her uncle was a Supreme Court justice, it just seems to me that there is like some type of cover-up, and it's possible that the police were involved in the cover-up at the time, because in the 1910s, it's basically known that cops did not play by the rules. They were not necessarily the most morally set people. A lot of them were known for being crooked in that time period, and I know that's kind of like an every generation thing, but in the early 1900s, it was especially known for that. And in my mind, it's like, he didn't approve of her career. He also didn't approve of her fiance. So what if he inadvertently found out that they were going to run away and get eloped? Especially considering the book that she bought, Engaged Girls Sketches. And that's just kind of telling in itself. Books are very telling, in my opinion. If someone has a book on them when they die, or when they disappear, or if they buy it before they disappear, and they're like basically running around town on specific missions, to me it seems very likely that it might have something to do with it. So what if he found out that they were engaged and they were going to run off at a certain time and go get married? What if he wanted to stop that from happening? And what if he sent somebody after his daughter to maybe try to scare her, but inadvertently they ended up killing her? That could be the case. The only thing that stacks up to his favor, to the father's favor, I would say, he put out a reward of $1,000, which in today's, with inflation, would be about $20,000. That's the only thing that gives him any credibility, in my opinion, whatsoever. I feel like the father did it. I feel like that's just what it is. And if it wasn't him himself, if he didn't fucking kill her himself or whatever, make her disappear, I feel like he could have hired somebody to make that happen, because he was so wealthy and well known, and he had, you know, political people in his pocket. His brother was a Supreme Court justice. So again, I feel like it's a cover-up in some way, shape, or form. This case is over 100 years old, and I just really wanted to go over it because it's one of the more like early 1900 crimes that you would expect to hear about, like a cover-up and someone going missing, a possible murder. It's just all very interesting, all very mysterious, and we still don't know what happened to this day. And it sucks, but I personally think that the father did it. That's just my opinion. But like I said, there is no definitive answer as to what happened to poor Dorothy Camille Arnold on December 12th, 1910, but her mother unfortunately did die without knowing what happened to her daughter, or possibly not knowing what happened to her daughter. She actually died in 1928, unfortunately not knowing what ever happened to her daughter, or maybe she did, I don't know. And like I said, the family was very well known, so unfortunately, even after her death, years after her death, people would send hoax letters and pranks to her parents saying that it was Dorothy and that she was fine. But they had these checked out, and they said that it was all hoax and pranks pulled by people, which is absolutely disgusting to me. If you are going to do that, you're a piece of shit, and you shouldn't be allowed to walk on this earth. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That's all of the case of Dorothy Arnold, and it's just really sad. I feel like there will never be any resolve to this case. It's going to be a cold case forever, and it just sucks because you'll never know what happened. The descendants of Dorothy Arnold will never know what happened, and yeah, it's just really sad. I believe I'm going to do like 4 or 5 of these ones for the first season of this. And then the second season is going to be on the 1920s. Like I said, we're going to work our way up. So just stay tuned for that. It's again going to be every Wednesday. I'm just going to kind of rotate with my series so that way you guys don't get sick of one thing that I'm doing and I don't get sick of one thing that I'm doing, or incredibly haunted for just doing haunted locations all the time, because I don't want that. So I'm just going to switch it up between series so that way I don't get sick of doing one thing. And that way you guys don't get sick of me talking about one thing. So I hope that you guys like this episode, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up for me. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button so that way you get notified when I do put out a new episode. And yeah, they're gonna come out every Wednesday just like my haunted locations. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys next Wednesday.